All right. Takes two of us to calm this crowd down.
Let's do it again. Right. Let's welcome Nancy. Nancy, you say good morning.
Good morning. I'm Nancy McDowell, a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to all of you who woke up early, and you did wake up early, I can tell, to enjoy the extra hour of late tonight. So that's the good news. And welcome to those of you in the sanctuary as well as those of you who are chiming in remotely. Visitors, greetings. A special welcome to you. We're delighted you made the choice to come to Mainline Unitarian Church today. Every service is different, so if you like what you see, please come back and join us next week. For today, join us in the fireside room for coffee, goodies, I think, sometimes, and warm conversation always. Let me introduce the worship team today. Reverend Dave Messner, our interim senior minister. Dawn Star Sarah Borchell, Director of Lifespan Faith Development. Chris Cavallari is our worship associate. Music in this week's service will be played by the Alan Siegel Quintet, featuring a very special guest, Vincent Craig. We're glad to have you here. MLUC is an open and caring religious community. We welcome everyone to our church, no matter what your journey that brought you here. What unites us is our acceptance of diverse spiritualities, the principles and values held by all Unitarian Universalist congregations, our individual commitments to learn and grow spiritually as a community, and putting our faith into action by working towards social justice here in our communities of the Main Line, Philadelphia, and of the wider world. Some special announcements. There's two great events happening at 11:30 today. The UU film series continues this morning in the McGinnis Room. It's the fifth of six, but if you missed the others, this one's still well worth visiting. So come and join them for a late lunch as well. And then A Date with Death, Aging is Better Than the Alternative, will be held here at 11:30. That's definitely a winner. Every Sunday, for those who like to start their morning with some calm and insight, join us for meditation from 8:30 to 9:45. I've been attending regularly since I retired, and it's become a must-do for me. I hope you will join either by Zoom or upstairs in the room 208 for some calm and insight. Anything you could want in an early morning ritual. And if you miss the 8:30 one, there's always a second meditation at 11:30 upstairs in room 208 as well. And finally, just a commemoration of International Women's Day, which was Wednesday this week. Of course, we want to commemorate women every day. And I'll talk about the men next week, I promise. If you would take a moment to silence your devices, I'll turn it over to Reverend Dave.
I have a few things I want to talk to you today in the minister's 10 minutes. It's scalable. It's just dial up, dial down. Now, the first thing, we have a lot going on today. I am so excited by the idea that you get to come worship, and then you go out and you can choose Unitarian history, you can choose death, you can choose coffee hour. Our middle school kids are going off to a Hindu temple. We have meditation upstairs. This is a church that is so wonderfully, vitally alive. And that's one of the things I'd like to celebrate today. I'm your transition minister. You've been transitioning. From what to what? What were you and what have you become? One thing we've been trying to do in these couple of years together is to come back together, to reopen the house, to re-engage, in many cases, 9 out of 10 cases, to re-engage in things we knew how to do, but we might have forgotten. To re-engage in doing play readings and doing fellowship dinners and doing concerts and on and on. The list goes on and on. You know how to do all those things. It's springtime. We know because we got up ungodly early today. It's springtime, and so we're pulling out all of our best practices, and we're reconstituting our lives with them, and we've been reconstituting this community with them. Every week, we get to see new people sitting in pews, and that's incredibly important as a community of renewal, as a community of invitation, and as a community that's looking toward the future. That's what today is about. Today's the campaign kickoff. I was saying to the guys, we call it in the business, it's liturgical kind of thing, the shearing of the sheep. You know, you gather the flock. No, wait, that can't be right. That's not what we call it. No, this is the moment that we gather up. I often say to people, they say, what's with your church? People say that a lot to me. What's with your church? I say, well, here's a helpful way to think about it. Think about this church as a cooperative. We're very simply a co-op. We come together, we pool what we have, we decide together what we're going to do with it, and then we have fun not only doing it, but celebrating the results of it. As I say, you've been doing that since maybe 1958. That's a long time. And we stand in a house that was built by some who built this house are no longer with us. May we remember them on this day because they had the foresight to invest. Church is like nothing else because the money that we give here is not about paying for what we enjoy. I belong to a health club. I haven't seen it much lately, but I send them the money, and that's the important thing. But that's a kind of, in theory, sort of tit for tat. You know, you keep the locker room towels fresh, and I'll give you whatever I give, $57 a month. This is something obviously different than that, or a subscription to a magazine or something. You wouldn't give, you wouldn't tithe from your hard-earned money and give of your savings, and indeed, in many cases, give the bequest of your entire estate to a place that was a magazine subscription. Because you're not giving it. We are not giving it in return for what we receive. We are giving it that 100 other people will receive what we ourselves have been graced with. That's what's going on here today. And that's really extraordinary because the 100 people who are going to receive, you don't know them. You might, some of them around you, but it's the 100 people who haven't arrived yet. And that's an incredible idea that we have the power to, that echoes beyond our own presence, beyond the sound of our own voices, and that's the gift, the magic of this place. So that's all entree. I want to invite Craig and Linda forward with their clippers. Okay. That's a shearing joke. They're turning on me, folks. So let me introduce Craig and Linda. I have to introduce them to you, but I'm so grateful, our campaign leaders for this year. So I'm not too obscure on what I'm talking about. This is the kickoff of the pledge campaign. Every year in this church, we make a pledge of our investment, and that lets us do all the ministries of the church. And we got dreams for this year. Let me turn it over and let the two of them regale. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a real treat this morning to be here with Alan Siegel and his group. We attend Jazz and Joe regularly, so we're excited to hear them this morning. So we were asked to chair the stewardship campaign, and you know, when they offered us these T-shirts, that sealed the deal. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you for a few minutes this morning. Looking back, when Linda and I joined MLUC 32 years ago, just months after the fire that destroyed our building, we were so impressed by the resolve of the congregation to rebuild this beautiful building with an eye to the future. And when we envisioned the capital campaign, we ensured our spiritual home would be maintained in good condition for many years in the future. Today, we are rebounding from the COVID epidemic, increasing our attendance back to pre-COVID levels while we transition toward a new minister. Now we have the opportunity to think about our future, envision how we see our congregation beyond the next few years, and build the foundation we need to navigate in our changing world. What are some of the questions we should consider? Well, how will we develop the visionary leadership we need in the congregation through future generations? In our changing world, how can we better communicate our mission of transformation to our wider community? How can we better use technology to be more inviting and welcoming to our neighbors? Once again this year, we experienced what more ministerial presence means through Carolyn Bright's tenure as our ministerial intern. Her effort allowed us to offer more opportunities for personal development and community building. What opportunities can we envision if we could hire a second minister? How would that help us more effectively create and implement our vision and hopes? Our church budget is not not a matter of paying to keep us in operation for the next year. We must continue to look to the future as we share our values to the larger community and ask that we all consider what we can do to sustain and strengthen our congregation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you both. So one more bit on the campaign. This week we started early and we went to a few folks and said, get us rolling before we get rolling so we can come into launch day with some momentum. So I'm pleased to say that we started the campaign already more than $100,000 in this morning as we strive for 700,000 and beyond. The other thing, we went to a few people and we said, can you give us a little bit extra? That's just a little bit. So, as a match. So, today, if you are pledging anew or increase your pledge as you can, we have an extra $5,000 incentive today to match. So, when you go out in the lobby, Madeleine's going to be there. She's got prizes. She's got a prize wheel. It's a great situation out there. You can do your pledge today if you're ready to pledge. They have your historical pledge, and let's see what we can do today. The dream, and this is the only pledge campaign, the last pledge campaign I'm going to be with you for, and the dream I want to leave you with for your own greater joy is, what if we did the whole campaign as March Madness every year, and it was literally 1 month? And we did it, we dreamt, and then we wrapped it up. Right? Bring it up with a bang, bring it down with a hoot, and then move on. And so this is March Madness. I invite you today to pledge. And again, if you're a first-time pledger or an increased pledger, it's up to a $5,000 match today for the church, and that's really significant. Thank you so much. Now, something else important today. I'm intentionally taking this time. Is Mary Heil nearby? Mary, can you come forward? This was the thing, and people on the staff said, you can't ask Mary, she'd hate that. She'd hate the spotlight. But on this day, I didn't even tell you why Mary Heil was coming forward, and she got a standing ovation. There aren't that many people in the world who can do that. On this day, I want to take time in this worship space, because to worship means to lift up that which is worthy. To gather as a community and say, what are the worthy things in this life? Mary Heil has been serving this community for more than a decade. Am I correct? More than a decade, and not only serving this community, functioning as sort of like the heart of this community. It's in life, of course, vocation is not all about what you do, but it's about how you do it. It's about how you show up for other people, how you not only tell them that you care, but show them through your relentless caregiving. Mary is a person of empathy and dedication. And I want to say, Mary, on behalf of everyone here, we are so grateful that you have blessed this house with your service and your presence. And I know your husband, Rob, is here. Thank you, folks, for sharing Mary with us. It's transformed who we are, and we will miss you so much and wish you every blessing in your work. And know that you have this home as a church home whenever you want to come here. And in fact, when you come here now, you don't have to work. So it's even maybe a more enjoyable place, so please come hang out with us. Bless you, Mary. Do you want to say anything?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me this space to acknowledge you and say goodbye. and also just thank you for this amazing experience. Thanks.
All right, let's talk about our mission statement, and let's recite it together. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our welcoming faith.
I'm delighted to invite Kit Burns forward in our continuing series of original chalice lightings.
We light this chalice to bring light and warmth to our circle. For what tribe does not love to gather to swap stories, songs, and discoveries around a fire? In the dark unknown, with this quickening, we proclaim that this is a sacred place for worship and a time to be together in love, openness, and curiosity. As the flame flickers, wanes, and catches on, so do we seek to catch some bit of truth and to illuminate life's deepest connections. Let the welcoming glow of this chalice still our fears and encourage us to be fully with each other and the world. This is our communion and our commitment.
Now I'm about to do our call to worship, but ringing in my head, you said the nicest thing to me before we started. What did you say? Can you repeat that? Now he has to pick which thing.
This is the happiest church I've ever been in.
That was nice. So welcome, my friends. Enter this house because it is your home. Stop at the threshold for a moment when you arrive. Shake the dust off your feet, the dust carried from a world that does not always listen well. The dust from a world that does not always love us well. Welcome. Enter this house because it is your home. See in this place that the altar we set is often empty, because its purpose is not decoration. Come here. See the altar with space upon it and lay down your weariness. Lay down disappointments. Lay down hurts. They bear no currency in this house. Then take a moment together and gather up your dreams. Bring forward your hopes. Lift up your music in this space. Give them the blessing of light and air and receptive ears. Give them the blessing of living witness to each other. Take up now together, my friends, the work of the Spirit. For this shelter is for the making and remaking of souls. No less than the making and remaking of souls. Let us begin again together in this great human vocation of ours. Come, let us worship and let us celebrate. You may rise in body or in spirit, but definitely in voice as we sing our opening hymn, number blah, 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 38.
What do you suppose I might have in here? You know what I have in here. Anybody else have any guesses? A tutu. It is not a tutu. It is just tulle. What? Feathers. You are close enough to see the quills of said feathers. Yes, it is feathers. And why might I have feathers in here? Why do you suppose there might be feathers in here? What are feathers a symbol of? Birds, flight. What are birds in flight a symbol of? Freedom. That's a good answer. That's not the one I'm looking for, but it's a good answer. Hope. Hope. Yes. So, do you know why birds in flight are a symbol of hope? Why are they a symbol of hope? I think they're a symbol of hope because they can lift up. They can go. They can do the thing that they want to do, even if the ground is unsteady or unstable or the branch breaks under their feet. And so I have feathers today as a symbol of hope because we need hope. Sometimes when we're trying to do a new thing, when we are feeling discouraged, when we ask for help, we need hope. When we ask for money, we need hope. We need the hope that the money's going to show up. And it usually does. I'm not doubting that, but it's a good time to remind ourselves that we have hope. So, would anybody like to come up and feel what it feels like when a feather touches you? It's very soft, yes. This is Juniper's duck feather. The other feathers, I think, are mostly from raptors. My older son, who's doing nursery care this morning, liked to collect these at our old home in Maryland a long time ago. They're beautiful. Anybody else want to feel a feather? Yeah, come on up. You can come feel a feather. And then these are very, very soft ones. These are down from a duck. Yeah. Yeah. Want to feel a feather? Yeah. Yeah. So our Unitarian poet, Emily Dickinson, wrote a poem about hope. Come on up. Does anybody know this poem? If you know it, if you really know it, you can say it with me. I don't have it memorized, but I do have it in front of me. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. When we keep hope, we keep our eyes open. When we keep our eyes open, we're able to notice the way forward, whatever that might be. Hope pulls us through hard times and helps us imagine how much better things can get. So I would like to invite the children and youth to go to their classes now. They're going to do some bird-related things. The younger kids, at least. The older kids are going to be working on creating your worship service for the coming of age service in a few weeks. I'll tuck this back over here.
Loving the musical interstitials. At MLUC, we donate half of our weekly collection to a worthy organization through our offertory outreach program. This month's offertory outreach partner is the UU Service Committee, an international human rights organization. UUSC has partnered with communities working to advance human rights and dismantle oppressive systems. Most particularly since the full-scale Russian invasion of the Ukraine, the UUSC has partnered with grassroots organizations in Ukraine and Poland to support those fleeing the war, especially those with the least access to aid, such as Black and Brown people, LGBTQIA+ people, disabled people, Roma people, and the elderly. UUSC partners have been distributing food, cooking supplies, batteries, generators, lamps, and other necessities. They've been organizing support for groups who are fighting pushbacks of Black, Indigenous, and people of color migrants. They've been providing free legal assistance and counseling to those fleeing the violence. Thank you to the UUSC and their intersectional grassroots partners in this critical work. The offering will now be greatly received. To make an electronic donation, If you're watching remotely or if you're in the sanctuary, please follow the instructions that you see on the screen. I actually brought a quote from Bell Hooks. It's one of my favorites, particularly for this part of the service. Rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. And our candles of community is our ritual of personal sharing of joys and sorrows. After each announcement, would you say with me, we hold you in our hearts? We light a candle of sorrow and loss in acknowledgement of the 3-year anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic, and for the courage and compassion as we continue to navigate the various variants. For all those affected by COVID-19 health risks and challenges, we hold you in our hearts. Kit Burns asks us to light a candle of concern and compassion for Marshall Levine. Marshall has entered hospice care at home. And for the Levine family and friends, we hold you in our hearts. I'm going to ask you personally to light a candle of hope and healing for my Aunt Marianne as she awaits a liver transplant. She finally got through all the tests and is now on the list. So for Marianne and her daughters, please will you hold her in our hearts. And since we're talking about donations, we light a candle of gratitude for all those individuals and families who choose to donate life through organ donation, who choose to plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. For all those who donate life, we hold you in our hearts. And for joys and sorrows, unspoken or too deep for words, we light a candle. We hold you in our hearts. Because I want to leave a little room for music, we're going to have a very brief meditative reading. It's just a line from Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. And it's, we are all bound together in one great bundle of humanity. And we're going to take a minute of meditation, who for some it will be too short and for others too long. So I just invite you to get comfortable in your seats. I'll ring you in and out again. May the silence we have shared hold us and heal us.
Now, right before I was coming forward to preach, Rich ran up and whispered in my ear, and not to turn this into a telethon, I am old enough to know Jerry Lewis, right? But Rich said, we're at 150. So somehow, between the time I was talking to you earlier there and the time I got here, you all produced $50,000. And I didn't even see your hands move. So it's awesome, and thank you for people on Zoom who are getting us on the big tote board. We should get a tote board. That's too awesome. Anyway. I don't want to be a tote, but it's a little bit exciting, and maybe it's okay. Because Pledge Drive Sunday is a day to feel excited and to dream about the future of our church. A day to recognize the gifts and resources we have been miraculously given or ferociously earned, and then make decisions about these resources in a way that is connected meaningfully to our values, to our dreams, to our best selves and best possibilities. We do it here in church because, like everything else, here we have the space, I hope, to have a little more mindfulness, to take a little more care with the decisions, and to practice stretching generosity. Not because we ought to save those things up for church alone, but because it's a place of practice, right? We don't come to church as the only place to be generous. We are generous in the church because we have 100 other places to go where our generosity of the financial kind, and maybe more importantly of all the other kinds, are absolutely needed in this world. I want to go back to that line. We're here to recognize the gifts and resources that we have been miraculously given or ferociously earned. I hold those two things. I feel so grateful for everything I have. I feel really fortunate. Heck, you pay me, and I feel fortunate for that. I feel fortunate. I live in the church. I live in a house here, and I feel fortunate every morning when the light comes in, and I watch the trees, and I say, I have so much. And holding together, I'm torn in looking back on my life, and you have to tell me if you feel the same way. I'm torn between those two instincts. One of them is, oh my gosh, how did I get all this? Just like manna from heaven kind of feeling, that idea of like unearned, like wealth, just enormous. And other times it's like, well, no, actually, I remember working 14 hours a day for 10 years, and so I hold those two things together, ferociously earned and miraculously gifted. Both are possible at once, right? And I hope we notice, even at times in our life where we might feel depleted, or we might feel that we have less, that we pause here and we breathe. And we notice that in even the modest things, there is an abundance and a blessing. That even if we worked those 12 or 14-hour days and it produced less than some others, it has a kind of grace to it. It has a blessing. Every dollar that comes from labor carries a special blessing. Every dollar that is gifted to us carries a special blessing. I often think about, I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother, one of my grandmothers, remembered every event, every birthday, every anniversary, and she would send a check, I don't know, $5 or $10 or something. It must have been, and she had like 18 grandchildren. That was one of her main projects, was to send the $5 on the occasion. And I always took that as really special money. Grandma money is special money, right? Pause and think about what I do with that. At times in my life, I've had awful jobs. Awful. Anyone ever had a bad job? At those times, when I got my paycheck, I tried to pay attention to enjoying what we did with that. Let's go out to eat. Because I'm telling you, after this week, this was hard-earned money. And we're going to go have some nice meal and vest it with the worth, because it's blood, sweat, and tears, right? Other times, I've been in life, I became a minister. And this is, most of the time, a pretty cush job. I'll save the other 7% for my parting sermon. But no, this is a 93% cush job. And I remind myself in the same way, not that same grudging, like, oh, I got this money through sweat and terrible, and I worked in the money. I remember that there's somebody who literally is tithing in the room from their disability check. And some percent, they're given 10% of disability money that they get, that they live on, and I'm taking 10% of that. That's humbling. That's humbling. So maybe it's still okay to enjoy a good dinner, but I take it as this was somebody's worthy investment that they said, I want this world to be good, and I'm going to fund your ministry in the world. That's something I want us to think about. I said it at a gathering, and I said, you're not in search for one minister. That's an illusion. You search for the one minister to help you in your search for the 500 ministers who are in this church and looking for ways to express their ministry. When you invest in this church, you're investing in 500 ministers who are going out in the world to bring love and kindness and tolerance and acceptance to others. And sometimes to invite them in. But most of the time we cast our bread upon the water, simply letting it go. Most of the time our kindness, which for us is the core of religious practice. Don't worry about the 8 principles. Worry about the one practice, the practice of kindness to other people, the relentless practice of kindness, given away for free, without condition, without screening, without sorting. Kindness that's given away. That's our practice to the world. And miraculously, quite a bit flows back to us from it. That's kind of the extraordinary power of church. And so today on Pledge Sunday, I like talking about money a lot. I'm a money enthusiast. It is often talked about. I wrote a curriculum with a partner of mine, Pat and Fanti, who just retired from the UA, bless you, Pat, about money, because they said the President's Council got together. Said, we need something like AL. AL is our sexuality health program, for money. Same way that the society won't talk about sex, and yet it's important to us. They won't talk about material wealth, and yet it's important to us. So let's do that in our churches. I'm a believer. We talk about sex positivity. I'm here to talk about money positivity. That money is not the center of our lives. Money is one of the vehicles we have with which we could express loving kindness for the world. Just one of them. Some of us have more, some of us have less. All of us have a way to share of what we have. That's the central practice here. So I'm excited about it. I'll be honest, it's not always easy, right? Whenever I come to make decisions about money, I have some different memories about the choices I've made in the past. I will tell you, when I say I'm an enthusiast, I mean I like investing. That's one of my hobbies. I know I got some investment club sorts of folks in the room, but I went off to business school and blah, blah, blah. I love investing. And I can't help remembering, though, as gifted as I am, the personal experience of General Growth Properties. Does anyone know what General Growth Properties was? This is a real estate investment trust, which, quite extraordinarily, was one of the largest bankruptcies in history. Hold that in your mind, because it was also the stock I chose to teach my children the virtues of being a saver. So one Christmas, yes, it was Christmas, I got them each some stock in General Growth Properties, which was a real estate investment trust. I got the annual reports, I wrapped them up, I got them the transaction statement tucked in the back, and I put it on the tree, and they ran and they ripped them open, and that's a nice moment, you know. They were like 5 and 8. And the tears, Daddy, what is it? What is it? No, it's not that, but I said, don't worry, I got them other stuff too, because I knew. But I kept trying to bring it back, so now we're going to check the ticker together. It was GGP. GGP, let's see how GGP is doing. And it went from like $58 to 44 cents. Somewhere around $4, Dad just stopped bringing this up. Never mind, do your homework. That's more important than money anyway. That's it. I am comfortable now, even though it's my hobby, to accept that I am a relatively unsophisticated investor. I chose GGP because that company it held the Rouse Company, which built the town of Columbia, which is where I grew up. So it was purely on the basis of emotional affection, I decided this real estate investment trust is great. That's, in the business, that's what we call dumb money. The person who purchases it, because, I've always liked Disney, I'm going to buy Disney stock. Okay, I loved Columbia, Maryland, I'm going to buy GGP stock. That's not what they say, more kindly, the smart money in the market, right? What's smart money? Smart money usually are folks who do this professionally, who go to the investment conferences, who personally know the CEO. Sometimes it's folks who are a little bit close to actually knowing the inside knowledge, but who actually know what's going on and can make some trading choices. That's the smart money. So that's the whole trope I'm trying to work here in this sermon, is the difference between, I'll just say not so smart, and the smart money. What does it mean in our situation? Because I don't think it has to do with stock picking. As an aside, I encourage you to buy a well-diversified portfolio. Do it in the form of an ETF and don't worry about it. That having been said, we have other decisions to make all the time, including today, is like, how much should I share with the church? And is it a smart money investment or not? So I went to and asked that kind of question. I'll tee it up for you right now before I give you some of the answers I've heard this week. When have you felt like you've used the resources in a way that connects to what you passionately care about and has a result in the world? Right? That's the connection we're talking about. We're given some gifts, and in my blurb I say, I don't see a difference between the money we're given and the minutes we're given. I think of those two things. They're different kinds of resources. We choose. We're choosing today, you're going to spend 75 minutes in church. Smart investment? Or darn, I could have watched TV. I could have slept 75 more minutes. Sometimes it's a fair choice. I won't say that sleeping has been the worst decision I've made with my minutes throughout my life. I do not regret the afternoon nap every Sunday at 2:30. Oh, delicious. It's the whole reason to be a minister, is to get the preacher's nap. But I'm trying to say we make choices. And I think it's smart money or smart time investment to come to church every week for your entire life. I really do. I wouldn't be here if I didn't, And that issue of like the decline of churches is people questioning, is this how I want to use, because it doesn't turn out 75 minutes, it turns out to be a couple hours. A couple hours a week, should I do church? Yeah. I think it's a little bit of a hidden secret, but coming to church changes your life. Coming to church means, on average, you live 4 or 5 years longer. Check the data. Lots of PhDs are checking these claims. I know it. I get the letters on Monday. Actually, I checked your... It's true. And folks have studied this a lot. Like, how would you live longer in coming to church? Little ways. As you get older, people check on you. As you get older, you maintain physical mobility. As you get older, someone encourages you to get your booster shot. As you get older, things go on and on. But somehow, that investment has a return. Of course, that's not the most important return. The most important return of this time investment in church are relationships you otherwise wouldn't have had. So, that's like a smart time investment model. What's smart money? I asked you, I said, what's the smartest money you've ever spent? Think about it for yourself right now. I won't take all afternoon and go around, but we can do it in coffee hour. What's the best money you ever spent looking back? You can have it all back. You can cancel any investment. You can cancel GGP and they'll send that right back to me. It's okay. And what money would you say, I wouldn't take that back for the world? I won't return that blender. That blender has been great. Right? It's not blenders though. So I asked the question. I'm going to give you a few quotes. I think I got permission for attribution. I'm going to go down it. Sally Fritzen. Sally says this, there was a time in my life I was at a crossroads. Did I want to buy the car that I wanted, travel to England, or go back to school? What did Sally choose? What did Sally choose? She got her degree, and this was most worthwhile. I also did manage to travel to England. Though she eventually got a car, it was not the green MG she had dreamt of. Rich? Green MG. Take note. Eileen Moran, smartest money ever spent? Spending my doctoral grant money to travel to England. No give-backs. If those folks are here somewhere, they're saying that. That's on. This is an anonymous one. Best money I ever spent? I feel it was money given to a homeless person I had come to know. The money surely did not solve their predicament, but it seemed to convey that someone cared about them. Best money I ever spent? My student loans. The $18,000 I had to borrow is nothing by today's standards, but that's what scholarships wouldn't cover for me to earn a BA and a PhD. And I wouldn't have been able to become a college professor without those loans. And this is actually from Lisa Ross, who responded, and she's a member of my prior congregation in Charleston, South Carolina, and teaches at Charleston College. A colleague, this Keith Goheen, who's a minister, he responded, he said, my MDiv, this is the thing that ministers do, is a 3-year degree. It ain't free. And he says, this the deep dive into my religiosity answered an internal longing and calling that was both affirming and empowering. It was a life-saving reorientation to my true self and my work in the world. Wow. Angie. Where are you, Angie? Pets. My dogs and my chickens, and now you've met their chickens. For those of you who've been following Pet Blessing Day, the chickens here, saved my sanity during COVID, and they also provide goods and services like eggs and protection. So don't fool with those chickens. They'll get you. Here's another anonymous one. In 1996, I brought a Genome sewing machine in a charity shop for $12.99. On that machine, I made dozens of quilts for friends and church auctions, clothing for myself, and taught a neighbor how to make a Barbie dress. That neighbor is now graduating from high school in a few months, and we're still connected, even though I left that house 9 years ago. Sweet. This is from one of the young people in one of my churches. I knew him when he was 11. And he wrote to me, he said, buying a house. What a wonderful thing. Kid's like 24. Bless him. I'm like, that is awesome. That's it. We could go on. This is another PhD professor. Always money spent on traveling. $3,000 to live in Costa Rica in 1994. Another one. This is a little turn. My divorce. It's real. It's real, which enabled a lot of new good things. I'll leave that there. It goes on a little bit, but that's for the unabridged version. This is from Susie Macy. And I don't know if you all know Susie. She was a child in this church. And so she came just recently. She was one of my congregants in Rochester, New York. And she showed up here 2 weeks ago with a picture of her and Mason McGinnis standing in front of the mansion. So she's a child of this church. And she said the smartest money I ever spent was the choice to move my frail mother close to me and our young family, not knowing if her finances would hold out. It was a special 9 months that we had with her. Carrie Nielsen. Big. A house in an excellent school district. Amen. Julia Hurl. I splurged on an amazing but pricey beach house rental to bring my husband's siblings and all their teenage and college-age kids together to celebrate a COVID-belated milestone birthday. It was a wonderful week of family fun, and was especially appreciated a couple months later when my brother-in-law died suddenly. We are grateful now for the time we spent together. And the list goes on. One of you shared with Girl Scout camp and extolled the lifelong virtues of being an excellent Girl Scout. Another one of you, I appreciate, shared therapy. Made all the difference, was good for the price. Another person, one of you, shared legal insurance. Again, that did some helpful things there. The list goes on and on. So I ask you, what's the smartest money? For me, whenever I hear, and my heart goes out to everyone who is finding ways to fund their education, I wouldn't give one moment of education back for a refund. It changed everything for me. I can't even think of a trip, even the terrible trips. I wouldn't give one family trip back. As I sit with those memories, I think these two things are the creators and the fixative of life. Right? I wouldn't give any of it back. I wouldn't take back any dollar I ever gave away to someone else. I honestly wouldn't take back a dollar I've ever given to the church or a dollar I've ever given to a university. And I think in the fullness of time, I've come to wish and dedicate myself to somehow giving more. I think that's what I'm suggesting today, that we look inward and we look backward and think about what money really matters. So much of it just flows through on seemingly nothing. Yet some of it is, I like the idea of fixative. Some of it is fixed in memory because it went to something. I remember the last trip I took with my mom before she died. Would I take that money back? No. And like I said, the money I wouldn't take back is the money I want to invest today. So I encourage you in this moment to think about how your money invested in this church has changed your life. If you want a refund, you see Rich. He'll give you back any money you've given since the year, 1950. No, I'm kidding. There are no refunds here. But I don't think many of us would take the money back. Thank you for what you've done with it. That's what I think. I get my little alumni pieces, and I see the young people, and I say, thank you for what you've done with it. That's my greatest hope, is that the money I earned and struggled to save might go to something that matters to me, matters to the people around me, and expresses some kindness to the world. I'm grateful that the church gives us a vehicle to do that. And so, my friends, I leave you on that note, that we have these different projects going in our lives, and that church in its best moment is a convergence of all the best projects. Caring for people, coming into closer relationship with people, finding meaningfulness in the work that we do, sharing what we have, and that in the process, strangely enough, of emptying ourselves of what we have been given, we grow larger, and we are somehow magically fulfilled. I think our church is unique because it gives us this vehicle to all at once make meaning and purpose of our minutes and our dollars. I'm not shy to preach at length on money from the pulpit because I really think it's our mission to make good use of the minutes and dollars that grace has afforded us. My friends, may we continue to do so. May we find transformation here in the way we live, in the people we are, and in the world around us. May it be so, and amen. Now, let's close this out. Number 1018 in your hymnals, rise in body or in spirit. stand, if you will, for our last word together. There you go. We stretch so no one is left out. That's the metaphor here. Thank you. As you go from this place, jazz sparking in your hearts, may you be blessed. May you be blessed by a sense of love that surrounds you and a love that wells up within you. May you be blessed by a spirit that comes from our past and carries us to our future. And most of all, may you be blessed today with a sense of your own power to create that future, to create the community we dream of, and to create a life together that nurtures and nourishes. Amen. Go in peace.